Most people think that taking the driver out of the Uber will lead to an explosion in profit margins because it represents 75% of the cost of the ride. But we actually took a crack at these unit economics. And what I think that fails to understand is there's about $140,000 of revenue per car driven on the Uber network. When you do that in self-driving, we think it goes down to about $100,000.
I can go buy a 2-year-old used car for $25K, $30K and get on the road. And then you add in the cost of the human. You need the fully autonomous car to be really cheap. That car would need to get down towards this $30K number for that disruption to matter.
You have to take the 70% that you save on the driver, and then you have to add all these new costs that you're going to incur. We still think that the margin goes up from, let's call it 7% of gross bookings to something like 12 or 14% of gross bookings, assuming that regulators pass it, assuming you could build the $25,000 or $30,000 car, assuming that you could enter into a commercial relationship with Uber and yield manage the peak. I don't think this is much of a threat to Uber.
Are you going to build the fleet to average or peak? If you build it to average, you're not going to be able to serve your customers during the peak at all. Like, they're only going to be disappointed. And if you build it to peak, you're going to have a bunch of very, very, very expensive CapEx sitting around doing nothing.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots, the channel where we follow the breadcrumbs and try to predict where disruptions will take us. In a recent podcast, billionaire investors Bill Gurley and Brad Gerstner discussed Tesla's upcoming Robotaxi service. They pointed out that despite the huge saving in not requiring a driver, Tesla's overall profit margin should be higher than Uber's by only a few percent. If so, it would be super hard for Tesla to dominate the market. They raised several important points, and I have nothing but respect for them. However, as this video will show, Brad and Bill missed a few points which completely transformed Tesla's competitive position and put it where it could crush Uber and dominate the ride-hailing market. Patrons make this channel possible, so a massive thank you to our newest patrons, Tokyo W, Ian N, Fabio Mag 1, and David S. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. If you too want to help keep me making these videos, there's a link in the card above. Now buckle up and get ready, because the Robotaxi revolution is about to disrupt everything, and disruptions are never boring. Chapter 1. Cost Advantages. Tesla has enormous advantages in both costs and revenue generation. The next chapter will discuss the surprise revenues of two amazing AWS-like opportunities. But first, let's discuss costs. In the BG Squared podcast, Bill Gurley and Brad Gerstner shared their insights on Tesla's upcoming Robotaxi service. They acknowledged Tesla's price advantage from not requiring a driver, but they highlighted several hurdles they believe Tesla would face, even with this advantage. Gurley and Gerstner analyzed the Robotaxi opportunities of Waymo and, adjusting for Tesla's strengths, reached the conclusion that while Uber has around 7% revenue margin, Tesla, by removing the driver, might only achieve a margin of about 12 to 14%. They argued this isn't high enough to make a substantial impact, and they noted the high costs associated with autonomous technology, maintenance, insurance, and vehicle production. Gerstner and Gurley took into account that robo-taxis save around 70% of the costs compared to human-driven cars. However, their analysis overlooked several of Tesla's huge advantages, which we'll dive into now. The main costs involved with operating a ride-hailing service are paying the driver, buying the car, maintaining it, and paying for fuel. With paying the driver out of the way, let's see how Tesla fares on the other items. A. Cost of the car. A1. Cost versus price. When doing the Waymo analysis on which the Tesla Robotaxi discussion was based, the BGs said the following.
No, those cars cost probably $150,000. It's
so
not
that
viable.
car would need to get down towards this 30K number for that disruption to matter. If it's in the 45, 50K and it's an alternative to 30K plus a driver, you have no...
Waymos, with their expensive sensors, cost around $150,000 apiece, and with all cars owned by Waymo, that's a huge expenditure. To be on par with a business such as Uber, with $30,000 cars provided by the drivers, autonomous cars should cost around $45,000. And if they want to disrupt Uber, not just compete alongside it, the cars should cost $30,000, the same as Uber's. The podcast believes that Tesla has a chance of getting there with their next-gen cars and robotaxis. What they fail to realize is that Tesla already is there, right now. Without any incentives, the USA price of a rear-wheel drive Model 3 is just under $39,000. Tesla's latest gross margin was 17.4%, and assuming 17% for this car, this means its production costs are $32,000 $360. Note the word costs. Waymo pays the price of cars and of expensive sensors, and Uber or its drivers pay the price of cars. But Tesla doesn't pay the price, only the production costs. If all a Model 3 cost Tesla is $32,000, then long before dedicated robotaxis are produced, Model 3 already is around what the podcast called Uber disrupting costs. If Tesla's starting line already spells disruption, further cost savings and dedicated robotaxis will probably spell Uber's death. And if this looks promising, we're only getting started. A2. Out of lease cars. Tesla's unique leasing strategy provides a significant advantage. Tesla leases do not include a purchase option at the end of the lease term, which means that out-of-lease cars return to Tesla. The cars are usually in excellent condition and show very little wear and tear. These vehicles can be repurposed as robotaxis at a fraction of the cost of producing new vehicles. A simple over-the-air update is all it takes to give these cars autonomous driving capabilities, with the latest robotaxi user experience. In other words, if the current Model 3's cost is uber disruptive, the cost of out-of-lease cars is foundation-shattering, and it doesn't even touch the cash flow. I recently posted a meme on X saying, "The news used to tell you that something had happened, and you had to decide what you thought about it. Now the news tells you what to think about something, and you have to decide if it ever happened." To see facts through narratives, I use Ground News, the sponsor of this video. Created by a former NASA engineer, Ground News provides an efficient, data-driven approach to getting objective news. Their website, browser extension, and mobile app break out the latest news wherever you are. With access to over 50,000 sources from around the world, you can compare coverage and see the bias and factuality. There are over 90 sources covering this story. On the right, you can see a visual breakdown of the bias, factuality, and who owns the sources. Here you can check how each side covers the story. Right-leaning sources show hundreds of far-left eco-extremists clashing with police to storm the factory. Left-leaning sources mostly show protesters trying to get to the factory, or even just gathering there. Tags show how factual and how far to the right or left each source is, and even who owns the channels. This story shows how important it is to have the facts. Feeding on one-sided narratives, anti-Tesla protesters are unaware of all the good Tesla does and the prosperity that capitalism brings. They are only shown bad points. To avoid blind spots like this, especially in an elections year, the blind spot feature shows you stories that are disproportionately covered by either side. To support the channel and find a better way to get your news, head to ground.news/CT-dots. Use the QR code on the screen or the link in the description to get 40% off unlimited access to the Vantage subscription like I use. Go to ground.news/CT-dots and experience this yourself. A3. Lifespan. When Brad and Bill said that to be on par with Uber drivers with $30,000 cars, robotaxis should cost around $45,000, I suspect they didn't consider that Teslas last around twice the useful life of gas-powered cars. If so, then to serve over the lifespan of a single Tesla, two $30,000 gas cars are needed, which means that even a Tesla costing $90,000, say a Cybertruck, can be on par with Uber. Looking at it another way, for the lifetime of that $30,000 gas car, only half a Tesla is needed. The equivalent cost of the current Model 3 LR becomes $16,000, and if Tesla's current car costs half of what's required to disrupt Uber, we don't even need robotaxis. Uber's days are numbered. Let me just clarify that I'm not hating on Uber. They're a great company providing excellent service, and I hope they will thrive. It's just that Uber investors that think their investment is safe are extremely mistaken in my eyes. They could not be more wrong. A4. Reliability and uptime. Besides lifespan, another aspect of EV reliability is that they require significantly less maintenance. We'll address maintenance costs in the next section, but for now, let's discuss uptime. As many police department reports have shown, Teslas enjoy higher uptime doing productive work. The inherent reliability of EVs is further enhanced by Tesla's continuous data collection and analysis, which helps make their vehicles even more dependable. Tesla's ability to monitor and manage their fleet in real time ensures that any issues can be quickly addressed, minimizing unscheduled downtime and maximizing efficiency. With fewer days spent in the shop and additional days bringing rides, the yearly revenue of each robotaxi should be a few percent higher, which tilts the equation slightly more in Tesla's direction. If this point seems minor, it isn't. As we will soon see, Tesla's actual revenue advantage per car is hundreds of percent higher than Uber's. But disregarding that and judged on ride-hailing alone, Tesla's uptime wins another 2% or so. When battling an incumbent, every percent is a huge deal. A5. Battery size optimization. Tesla are masters of data collection and utilization, and since they are vertically integrated and make the cars that their Robotaxi network will use, they can tune battery sizes for specific use cases. For example, they can make very short-range cars for cities where long range isn't necessary, reducing cost by using fewer batteries. Similarly, they can use mostly long-range cars in areas where they're needed, optimizing the fleet for different environments. This strategic deployment ensures that each vehicle is used most efficiently, balancing cost and performance. By customizing the battery size and capacity to match the specific demands of different markets, Tesla can further reduce costs and improve the overall efficiency of their Robotaxi service. A6. Two-seaters. Ride-hailing vehicles generally have a low occupancy rate, with an average of around 1.4 passengers per ride. Around 60% of all rides are single-passenger. Another 30% are two-passenger, and only 10% of rides are three passengers or more. Despite this, almost all rides are handled by sedans and SUVs with 4 or more seats and weighing 3,000 pounds or more. The main reason for this is that if a driver occupies a single front seat, both front seats become unusable. Asking the passenger to sit alongside the driver provides little privacy for both passenger and driver, and could involve personal safety issues, so with the exception of supercars, Ubers require 2 rows or more. But with no driver on board, 90% of rides could be handled by two-seater robotaxis, similar to the Cybercab mock-up shown in Tesla's latest video, which was originally published in Walter Isaacson's biography of Elon. Excellent book, by the way, and if you haven't read it, there's a link in the description. Smaller, lighter, and with only 2 doors and seats, Cybercabs require less metal, less glass, less everything, and even fewer batteries. Produced using Tesla's unboxed process, and probably with no need for painting, Cybercabs should cost less to build and less to maintain, providing huge savings for Tesla. B. Cost of maintenance. With no driver to pay, and with today's cars, not just tomorrow's, at an extremely disruptive cost, Tesla is set to disrupt Uber. But what about maintenance? B1 EVs versus ICE. 100% of Teslas, but only 5% of Uber's global fleet are EVs. EVs have fewer moving parts compared to ICE vehicles, and this inherent simplicity leads to lower maintenance costs. Components such as engines, transmissions, and exhaust systems are absent in EVs, reducing the number of potential points of failure. Additionally, Tesla's use of real-time data allows them to predict and prevent potential issues before they become serious problems. We already addressed this when discussing uptime, but besides higher revenue, this also means lower maintenance costs over the life of the car, a double win for Tesla. B2, in-house production of parts. Maintenance and repair often involve replacing parts. Tesla is vertically integrated and manufactures many of its own parts, but Uber buys them from third parties. By paying the cost of parts and services rather than their marked-up price, Tesla can keep expenses low. B3, minimizing repair costs by design. If Uber, Hertz, or even retail car buyers run GM, Ford, or Toyota cars every time a part needs replacement, either through wear and tear or due to an accident, GM, Ford, or Toyota profits from selling a new part. This incentivizes car makers to make parts shorter-lived and more prone to damage in accidents. Moreover, even if OEMs wanted to make parts more durable, they have little data on how accidents and malfunctions happen in real life. But if Tesla runs its own robotaxi fleet and handles its maintenance, it would be highly incentivized to reduce accident damage and minimize repair costs. And loaded with sensors, they'll have detailed data on how malfunctions and accidents occur. Analyzing every aspect of an accident from the cause to the resulting damage could enable them to not only make their cars safer, but also make them cheaper to repair. This proactive approach not only reduces repair costs, but also ensures that the fleet remains operational, providing consistent service to customers. B4. Potential insurance savings. Tesla's autonomous driving technology has the potential to reduce insurance costs. With a wealth of data collected from its vehicles, Tesla can continuously improve its autonomous systems, reducing the likelihood of accidents. They will probably provide their own insurance wherever possible, but whether they do this or utilize external companies, insurance costs are likely to steeply decrease as technology becomes safer and safer, translating to lower overall costs for the robotaxi fleet. Moreover, with cameras all around, when accidents occur, it is much easier to prove that third parties are at fault, and car theft is almost non-existent with Teslas, further reducing the costs. C. Cost of energy. So far, things aren't looking too bright for Uber, so let's move to powering the cars. C1. Tesla EVs versus gas cars. EVs are more efficient than internal combustion cars, and electricity is usually cheaper than gas. This makes EVs more attractive than gas cars for most ride-hailing scenarios. While this seems to give Tesla a strong operational advantage compared to Uber, there are two good reasons to completely ignore this advantage. These reasons are that A. There's a good chance that Brad and Bill have considered this in their feasibility calculations. And B. Uber already utilizes many EVs, and with time, its entire fleet will become electric, thus giving Uber the same refueling cost reduction as Tesla and erasing Tesla's advantage. While these reasons are very valid, I will ignore them. First, Brad and Bill's analysis assumes an Uber driver with a $30,000 car. But if Uber drivers get EVs to gain the same energy advantage as Tesla, then in the next few years at least, the vehicle cost in Gurley and Gerstner's calculations should be much higher. And another reason is that Tesla owns their supercharging network. So here too, vertical integration has Tesla paying the cost of electricity, while other companies or their drivers have to pay a marked up price. C2, optimized charging. With their own network, Tesla can ensure that their robotaxis are always charged and ready at minimal cost. This control over the charging infrastructure also means that Tesla can strategically place superchargers in locations optimal for their robotaxis, while Uber will have to use stations at places dictated by charging networks. My immediate thought on this point was that these stations would provide extremely fast charging in city centers, but on second thought, this is not the optimal solution. A better solution would have lower speed chargers in robotaxi parking facilities in low-cost regions away from center. Ride-hailing demand changes throughout the day, and as we will see in Chapter 2, having enough cars available for use in peak demand hours means having an oversupply of cars during the rest of the day. This means that slower, less expensive chargers could be used to keep the entire fleet at full charge, with cars rotating from charging to active work. C3. Lower cost of infrastructure expansion. Of course, to save markups and place chargers where they are most convenient, Uber could build its own charging network. Since they do not have the tech to do this themselves, they will have to order these stations from external suppliers and invest huge capex. And these suppliers don't come cheap. Tesla has a huge cost advantage in installing charging infrastructure compared to other companies. Unless Uber buys these stations from Tesla, building and maintaining a network would cost them an arm and a leg. An easier route would be to reach a competitive, low markup deal with other charging networks, such as EVgo. But with these networks' huge installation costs compared to Tesla, their electricity won't come cheap. Even with a low markup, Uber would have to pay much more than Tesla's cars would. By keeping infrastructure costs low, Tesla can scale their robotaxi service more rapidly and efficiently than competitors who rely on third-party charging networks. You might note that I'm referring to Uber, while very often it's their drivers footing the bill for cars, maintenance, and fueling. As we will see in Chapter 3, I am doing this intentionally. It's the correct thing to do. C4. Solar. Tesla's potential to use solar energy and battery storage to power its supercharger stations can further reduce operational costs. By leveraging their solar technology, Tesla can ensure cost-effective and sustainable energy for their fleet. This not only reduces costs, but also aligns with Tesla's mission of promoting sustainable energy. The use of solar energy can also provide a more stable and predictable cost structure for charging, as it is less susceptible to fluctuations in energy prices. C5. Vertical integration in energy supply. If local solar isn't enough, Tesla's integration of energy solutions, such as solar roof and Powerwall, can further reduce operational costs for their robotaxi fleet. Tesla is also an energy company and has virtual power plants stabilizing the grid. This enables them to use energy stored in remote Powerwalls and megapacks to charge the fleet rather than pay markup when buying energy from a utility company. Once again, vertical integration has Tesla just paying the costs, while Uber pays a marked-up price. Moreover, this reduces dependency on external energy providers and ensures a more stable supply of power for Tesla's robotaxis. D. Cost recap. These cost advantages position Tesla uniquely in the robotaxi market. Unlike Uber, which incurs substantial costs for drivers, cars, maintenance, and fuel, Tesla's vertically integrated approach and advanced technology offer a path to unprecedented efficiency. The combination of lower operational costs, in-house production, and energy efficiency ensures that Tesla can not only compete, but also potentially dominate the market. By leveraging these cost advantages, Tesla is poised to disrupt the traditional ride-hailing model. Their ability to control every aspect of the production, maintenance, and energy supply chain allows them to operate at a lower cost and higher efficiency than any competitor. This positions Tesla to offer a superior service at a competitive price, ultimately setting the stage for their domination in the robotaxi market. But lowering costs is just part of the story. Let's move to increasing revenue. Chapter 2, the AWS moment. In the BG2 podcast, Bill Gurley and Brad Gerstner identified a critical challenge for Tesla's robo-taxi ambitions.
Here's a huge conundrum. Are you going to build the fleet to average or peak? And by the way, you lose whatever your answer. If you build it to average, you're not going to be able to serve your customers during the peak at all. Like, they're only going to be disappointed. And if you build it to peak, you're going to have a bunch of very, very, very expensive CapEx sitting around doing nothing most of the time.
So I think this is the most critical point, right? Because this is the same challenge that Amazon faced, which led to the creation of AWS. Like you said, with Uber, they have a natural thing. They can just charge a little bit of peak pricing. They got more people who get out of their houses, drive their cars, pick you up. Wait times don't go up that much, and they benefit from that. And as the network expands, it gets even better. So, right, as a Tesla owner, if I had the opportunity to put my Tesla in a pool, right, and allow it to be, pulled out during peak periods of time, for rideshare, I'd have a problem with that because I need my car during those periods of time.
Well, it's very likely, here's another way of saying what you're saying, which is it's very likely that the average Tesla owner's usage map is similar.
Of course.
To the Uber map that we just put on.
Of course.
If Tesla deploys a massive fleet to meet peak ride-hailing demand, many cars will sit idle during off-peak hours, resulting in high operational costs. Conversely, if they don't meet peak demand, customers might turn to competitors. However, Tesla has not one, but two AWS moments that can transform this challenge into a massive opportunity. The BGs considered leveraging Tesla's retail fleet, with car owners sharing their vehicles in Tesla's ride-hailing network. To my surprise, they quickly dismissed this idea, noting that most car owners would need their vehicles at the same time the network wants them. I strongly disagree with so quickly dismissing the idea of retail-owned cars doing rush hour duties. Many Tesla owners do not commute during rush hour, and these could indeed send their cars to earn money at that time, much like part-time Uber drivers do. Additionally, households with multiple vehicles could take part, as could owners of small private fleets. So retail-owned cars shouldn't be so quickly dismissed. However, that's thinking by analogy or thinking small. The true breakthroughs await beyond these immediate solutions. You know how when Amazon loaded up with compute to meet holiday season requirements, this gave them AWS, a whole new business worth more than their other activities? Then Tesla loading up for peak hour demand should give Tesla at least two such opportunities. AWS moment number one. This is an electric school bus, one of many starting to proliferate around the country. Most school buses are old, polluting diesels, and studies have shown that children traveling in them lose IQ points compared to kids traveling in cleaner means. That's a huge reason for electrifying school buses. And theoretically it is. But the real reason that green school buses started proliferating is another kind of green: money. Like ride-hailing, school buses experience strong demand at specific hours and remain unused for most of the day. But electricity demand has peak hours too. This curve shows the electricity demand along the day, commonly known as the duck curve. It illustrates how electricity demand fluctuates, with peak demand occurring in the evening when people return home, and peak supply happening during the day when solar production is highest. Since peak electricity demand is at hours when school buses are idle, using EV school buses with bidirectional charging to stabilize the grid could be a source of real revenue. In one study, over 70 days, the average school bus discharged over 10 megawatt hours of energy back to the grid during peak demand hours, generating around $23,000. Annualized, that's $120,000 of revenue per bus per year, which makes it very clear why schools are now rushing to electrify. But $120,000 is almost the entire revenue that an Uber car brings throughout the year. This means that if Tesla gets enough robotaxis to meet peak demand, any car not needed at low demand hours would bring revenue as part of Tesla's virtual power plant, even while sitting idle unplugged. This graph shows typical ride-hailing supply and demand during the day. This further clarifies how Tesla's fleet can seamlessly transition between serving ride-hailing needs and stabilizing the energy grid. Previously, there was concern about the lifespan of nickel-based batteries in such applications. However, the advent of LFP batteries, which have an extremely long life, has mitigated these fears. These batteries are also becoming cheaper to replace over time, making the economic case even stronger. Tesla's Robotaxis can charge during periods of excess solar production, sometimes even being paid to take surplus energy off the grid, and then discharge electricity back during peak demand hours. This not only stabilizes the grid but also generates substantial revenue. Tesla's experience with VPP projects, such as those in South Australia and California, showcases their expertise. For example, the Hornsdale Power Reserve in South Australia, which uses Tesla batteries, has provided significant grid stability and saved millions in energy costs. Tesla's AutoBidder software plays a crucial role here, optimizing energy sales in real time and maximizing profits. Just like Amazon meeting peak compute demand led to the creation of AWS, Tesla's approach to balancing ride-hailing supply and demand can spawn a new business model. By utilizing the idle time of their robo-taxis, Tesla can participate in energy markets through AutoBidder, optimizing energy sales and maximizing profits. As big as the energy opportunity is, it's not the only AWS moment which idle robo-taxis provide. So let's move to the next one. AWS moment number 2. Elon Musk recently suggested using the strong onboard computers in Teslas for distributed computations, opening another revenue stream for idle robo-taxis. When not in use for ride-hailing, these vehicles could participate in a vast distributed computing network. This concept is reminiscent of the SETI at Home project, where individuals volunteered their idle PCs to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Tesla could take this idea further by utilizing the FSD computers of all idle cars to create a cloud-connected supercomputer. Tesla's vehicles already arrive with everything needed to make this idea feasible. Each car is equipped with robust batteries, efficient CPUs, a thermal management system, and wireless communications. This makes them well-suited for computational tasks without significant additional costs. Plus, these CPUs are optimized for low power usage, ensuring minimal impact on the vehicle's primary functions and range. By connecting thousands of these CPUs via the cloud, Tesla can create a massive distributed supercomputer capable of handling complex computations, AI queries, and data processing tasks. Imagine the power of thousands of Teslas working together to run AI models or process big data. Tesla could rent out this computing power and generate substantial revenue, and it could use it internally to help develop Optimus robots and other projects. Working together is a bit of a stretch as it comes with a caveat. AI training requires low latency, wide bandwidth communications between CPUs, and since cars are far apart and with narrow bandwidth, this makes them ill-fitted for AI training. They are best fitted for inference work, such as sending questions to Grok or other language models. Another potential use for this distributed computing power is cryptocurrency mining. Together with Tesla's low energy costs, they could utilize idle robo-taxis to mine crypto like there's no tomorrow, providing another promising avenue for additional income. Of course, it doesn't have to be crypto, as many other uses can be found. C. Revenue advantage. Tesla's vision for a robo-taxi fleet extends beyond just ride-hailing. Unlike gas vehicles, robo-taxis are not just cars. Robo-taxis are also energy storage batteries with fast bidirectional charging. And robo-taxis are also efficient, powerful, connected computers with standalone cooling. For companies like Uber, cars not used outside of peak hours become dead weight, so Uber has to supplant its fleet with part-time drivers active only during rush hour. Following this logic, Brad Gerstner and Bill Gurley suggested that Tesla use Uber as its own buffer for meeting peak demand. For Tesla, however, unused cars are a potential goldmine, potentially more than doubling ride-hailing revenues. As ride-hailing demand changes, cars will move from ride-hailing duties to grid stabilizing and computational duties and back again. By using idle robotaxis as grid-stabilizing batteries and powerful computing nodes, Tesla is set to revolutionize their business model. This offers them far greater revenue potential and operational efficiency than competitors like Uber. Chapter 3. Declining revenues. A. Lower revenue per car. Tesla should have significantly lower costs and substantially higher revenue than Brad Gerstner and Bill Gurley expect. But the bad news for Uber doesn't end there, because Uber's own revenues will likely decline significantly. When calculating for Waymo and Tesla, Brad and Bill lowered the projected revenue to $100,000 per car, significantly lower than the $140,000 that Uber cars currently bring. Their reasoning was that if there were more cars doing robotaxi services, then revenue per car would decline. This wouldn't only affect Tesla, but also Uber itself. Uber's earnings are already fluctuating and low, and it is questionable whether they could remain viable if revenues are drastically cut. B. Drivers get more of the pie. What's more, a drastic cut in revenue would make it uneconomical for many Uber drivers to continue driving for Uber, except maybe part-time during peak hours or picking up a ride when they're going somewhere themselves. To continue providing service, Uber would have to give drivers a larger piece of the pie or bear some of the drivers' expenses themselves. Either way, this could wreak havoc on Uber's financial results. C. Off-peak rides collapse. There's more to consider. As we saw in the cost chapter, Tesla's cost per ride should be much lower than Uber's. The cost per ride for Uber's fleet cars includes paying the driver, paying for gas, and factoring in a proportion of the car's price and maintenance expenses over the vehicle's lifetime mileage. For internal combustion engine cars, this lifetime mileage is about half of what Tesla's EVs achieve, and maintenance costs are much higher than with EVs. Tesla's costs, on the other hand, include much cheaper electricity, a relative proportion of the cost of a car that lasts much longer, and minimal maintenance. Essentially, not only is every element cheaper, but Tesla gets to pay the cost, not the price, for these components. Now, the reason I revisited costs is crucial. With an oversupply of cars outside rush hours, Tesla could lower ride prices to just above their costs. If Uber keeps prices high, few users would choose them. And if they lower prices to match Tesla, each ride will incur losses. With robotaxis nearly free during off-peak times, Uber drivers would remain idle and be forced to either only work during peak hours or stop ride-hailing altogether. Chapter 4, So Goes Disruption. Years ago, city streets were ruled by cab companies, taking passengers from one place to another inside the city maze. But then Uber came along, offering a better service at a lower price, and with this disruption, cab companies just about disappeared. Uber currently dominates ride-hailing, handling millions of rides daily. But now, it's Uber's time to be disrupted. Tesla's robotaxis' advantages are decisive. They don't pay a driver and have much lower costs taken over the lifetime of the car. As we've discussed, Tesla's cars already cost about half of what Brad Gerstner and Bill Gurley consider necessary to disrupt Uber, and future models will be even cheaper. Tesla's manufacturing efficiencies and vertical integration mean they only pay production costs, not retail prices. The advent of Tesla's Cybercab will push costs even lower, making their service unbeatable on price alone. Tesla can handle peak demand with a large fleet and generate revenue even when cars are idle by participating in energy markets and distributed computing networks. With virtual power plants and distributed computations, Tesla's robotaxis will earn money not just from rides, but from energy storage and data processing tasks. As Tesla lowers ride prices, Uber will be forced to match, which will cut into their already thin margins. Drivers may demand higher pay or leave the platform if revenues drop, leading to higher operational costs for Uber. Off-peak business will largely disappear for Uber as Tesla offers near-free rides during these times, leaving Uber drivers idle. Eventually, wherever Tesla enters with full force, Uber will be forced to scale down its operations. In other words, it's now Uber's turn to be disrupted by a better service with a lower price. Uber's days seem numbered as Tesla's innovations take the lead. In this video, I only discussed the financial aspect, but my robotaxi analysis contains much more. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make another video about robotaxis, including an entire game plan on how Tesla should penetrate the market to breach Uber's moat. Also, let me know if you think Brad and Bill are right in thinking Tesla will only have a 12% margin compared to Uber's 7%. Or maybe I'm right in thinking there's a lot more upside. Who do you think will win ride-hailing, Tesla or Uber, or maybe they'll cooperate? And when do you think we will see cybercabs operating autonomously in some city streets? Let me know below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And without patrons, this channel wouldn't be possible, so please consider supporting me on patreon.com/connectingodots for as little as $1 a month. Besides supporting me, you'll get ad-free access to all my videos, as well as a monthly patron-exclusive video. Don't forget to visit ground.news/ctdots to get 40% off and stay informed on breaking news. Please follow me on X, where I am connecting ODots. Until next time, I am connecting the dots and you are amazing.